Happy EDS Awareness Month. My name is Annie, and today I'm going to be telling you guys some things that people have said to me because of my EDS. First, I'll start with a couple lighthearted, kind of funnier things, and then I'll get into some things that were pretty hard for me at the time to hear. And then I'll tell you about the process I used to kind of get through in my mind what these people have said to me. One time I was just starting to work out at the gym. I had been going there for a couple of months, and I only used a couple machines at first, like the bike and the treadmill. This random guy who I don't know came up to me and waited for me to stop what I was doing so I could listen. And so I stopped, only for him to say, "Hey, how come every time I see you here at the gym, you're only ever doing cardio?" And I was a little bit freaked out because I was like, "What do you mean every time you see me here at the gym, I'm only doing cardio? Are you watching everything I do here?" But I didn't say that. I just told him that, I don't really know what cardio is, but I have a disability, so that's why I'm only doing a couple of machines. I can't really do the other ones yet, and I also don't know how to yet. Another thing was I was doing like an ab machine, and I went to clean it off, and this guy came by, and you might think that by him saying this he was flirting. He was being completely rude and not smiling. So he came by while I was cleaning off this machine, and he's like, "Is that all the reps you're gonna do?" And I was like, I don't know what reps is. But at the time I didn't have any gym lingo in my vocabulary. I assumed he meant like, "Is that all that you're gonna do on that machine?" So I said, yeah, that's all I was gonna do. And then he just kind of walked away like he was just annoyed. One that's kind of medium funny in a way is when I first got my scooter, I went to Target to go Christmas shopping. The funny thing is, there were a lot of little kids like looking at me and pointing at me and trying to figure out what was wrong with my legs. And that doesn't really bother me because kids are curious, and I love that about kids, so I think that's okay. But the thing that wasn't as funny was there were also adults doing the same thing. Like, there were adults within earshot of me easily, like talking about me and saying, "What's wrong with her legs? Like, why is she in a scooter? Why is she riding on that?" And I could also see them like really straining to look at my legs and try and find something wrong with them, because of course you can't actually see it from the outside. I mean, my knees are misaligned, but you can't really see that unless I tell you. One of them happened when I was at a college class, and my ex-boyfriend used to carry my backpack for me. Like, I have collarbone problems and shoulder problems, and I don't really work out my upper body as much. One time, after we left class, one of these classmates that we're not really friends with and we didn't really know, he just stands there and looks me straight in the face and says, "You really should carry your own backpack sometimes." And I was like, I have a disability and it's hard for me to carry it, so he carries it for me. And then my ex-boyfriend, boyfriend at the time, he was like, "Yeah, it's okay, like, I have no problem carrying her backpack for her or anything. She has a disability, so hurts her shoulders." So I just think it's funny how he felt like he had to defend my ex. Like, I think if he had a problem carrying the backpack, he probably wouldn't be doing it. This is starting to get into things that were not funny to me at the time. One other thing that happened at the gym was I parked in the handicap spot, but at this point I was able to walk. You can see the spots from the inside of the gym. So I go inside of the gym, and as I'm entering, this old guy is leaving, and he looks at me and laughs in my face. He's like, and he goes, "I'm so sorry you're disabled." And it was so sarcastic and rude, and I don't even think I said anything. I just kind of was like, thrown off by it, like, what? Turns out he had already told the front desk. Man, I feel so sorry for, people in wheelchairs who have real disabilities when people like her park there. He had already been talking about it, and the front desk told him, like, you can't judge if somebody has a disability or not, and that's when I came in and he was rude to me anyway. So, another time that was really not funny also happened at the gym was I parked in a handicap spot, and an old guy, a different one, was parked next to me in his own handicap spot. I could feel him, like, while I was sitting in my car, I could feel somebody looking at me. So I looked over, and there he was, shaking his head at me like this. I was like, that's weird. So I just kept doing what I was doing in my car, and then I felt something again, and the guy had gotten out of his car, and he was standing in the front of his car, but he was staring at me again, shaking his head at me again. And I was like, wow, that's really weird. He must have something against me. And then I got out of my car, and I saw the guy at the door of the gym, but still outside of it, and he was again staring at me, waiting for me to look at him, and shook his head at me again. And I didn't say anything because I'm still all the way at my car and he's at the door. But then I was like, okay, maybe, hopefully once he goes in, he will stop doing whatever he's doing. At that point, I kind of was assuming it was probably because I was parked in handicap. So I walk inside the gym, and he's literally in the lobby for the 4th time, staring at me, waiting for me to look at him so that he can shake his head in disapproval at me. So at that point, I was feeling harassed. I was feeling like he was staring at me too much and trying to I just felt harassed. So I was like, what do you want? Stop. And he said, you parked in the handicap spot. And I said, I know. And he was like, you don't have a disability. My wife has a disability. She has cerebral palsy. And he was like motioning at my legs. And all of that stuff he said yelling. So everyone around us in the gym, he just created a big scene yelling that stuff at me. And then he immediately, I guess he just got embarrassed, so he just started walking away. And so that way I couldn't respond to him. But I yelled after him, I am handicapped, you. And I called him something that I'm not proud of. It was the first time in my entire life that I had ever cussed at anyone, called somebody a name. And I'm still not proud of it, but I'm just being honest. That's what I said. I don't even know. So that brings me to the very worst one. So this one happened when I was at a university. It was my first day of a history class, and shortly before the class, it had to be moved to a different building last minute because I told the disability people that my scooter, which I had to use at the time, couldn't go up and down stairs. So they had to move a class to a different building. So I go into class riding my scooter on my very first day of class. This professor is a doctor, by the way, and I ride in there, I park my scooter, and I sit down in the front so that I'm right next to my scooter. The professor starts having issues with her computer. She's never used that computer in that building, I guess because it was changed kind of last minute. So there I am, just kind of sitting there. She looks at me and my scooter, and she goes, "Is that yours?" And I said, "Yes." And she goes, "Oh, so you're the reason why I had to move my class?" And I just was like, I don't know. And, I was pretty timid. I was shy. It was the first day. I just already rode my scooter to class with all the other kids looking at me, wondering why and everything. So I just was like on the spot times 10. So we got past that. But later in class, we were doing introductions, and I said my end goal was to be a child life specialist. And she went, "Oh, a child life specialist? What's that? Like killing children?" And she didn't say it in a funny way. And I was like, "No." So we get past that, and then at the end of the class I start packing stuff up on my scooter, and she was like, "So would you have trouble or something getting up and down stairs?" And I said, "Yes, my scooter doesn't go up and down stairs." And she said, "No, I mean you. Would you have trouble?" And I was like, "Yeah, I have a connective tissue disorder." And she cut me off right there, so I couldn't say anything. She was like, "I don't want to know what it actually is." And then turned around and started doing something else. So then I left. I did report her. So that was probably one of the worst things that anyone said to me, just because of all the circumstances. But that brings me to the last part of this video, where I tell you guys how I process these things, and maybe it can help you process them better. So in the moment, there have been several times where people have actually made me cry over this. Like, they've said mean enough things that I just went to the bathroom and cried for 10 minutes or something. And that's okay. Like, that's normal when people are mean to you in the moment for it to make you upset. But I have eventually gotten to a point where I process these things by thinking this phrase, "But by the grace of God go I." Now, you're probably thinking that that's what those people should be thinking about you because you're disabled. But I want to turn that around and think about it a different way, and not think about it in a physical way and physical ability, but I want to think about it in an emotional ability and mental ability, because it's more important, honestly. I know that it's hard to be physically disabled, but I can't imagine, and I'm so grateful that I can't imagine what it must be like to be a hateful, negative person that would criticize and go out of my way to be hateful to a complete stranger, especially who was using some kind of mobility aid or parking in a handicap spot. So that's how I like to think of it. But by the grace of God go I. I'm so grateful that I don't feel so wounded or hurt, something angry inside, that would spill over to complete strangers, especially weak or vulnerable physically strangers. I can't imagine being like that, and I'm really grateful that I can't imagine being like that. And honestly, that mentality has just led me to forgive these people, because I'm just glad that I'm not them. And honestly, just pray for them, and that whatever is unhealed within them that would cause them to treat somebody else like that, just pray for their healing in that way. So again, I know that that might not be the first thing you think when that happens, but at least you could try and maybe use my strategy to cope with it later on when you're just trying to process and think about what's going on. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. If you have EDS and you're having trouble with it, check out my other videos, because they're on exercising with EDS, and they have lots of different tips and things that are specific to EDS. So thank you for watching, and happy EDS Awareness Month.